Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Am I live? Yes, I am. Mm-hmm. There I am. That's a crazy delay. That's a crazy delay. The delay is crazy. Okay. Mm-hmm. Getting set up. 70K, Q&A, questions. Send them over. Okay. Quizás, quizás, quizás. Hello, hello, everybody. Yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah. How's everybody doing? Hello, MJ. Dolly Dust. I thought this was a premiere. It is not a premiere. I'm live, CMG Villager, and I just said your name. So that proves it. George P, what's up? Powerpuff Girl, what's up? Dolly Dust. Hello again. I believe that's Yosip. Yo, what's up, Kayla? I'm glad. I think I had seen your request for something like this before. I'm ready to rant about the School for Good and Evil series for the next 2 hours. Let's go. That's probably not what we're here to do, but I appreciate your enthusiasm nonetheless. Don, good to see you. Dolly Dust, your hair looks fine. Thank you. Buse, Film Fatales, Trixie Songs, XOXO, what's up? Hey everybody, very nice of you guys to join me. I am going to, let me put on some like a beat tape of some sort on the background, because I feel like a little bit of background music might be fun. Let's get Bailey Daniel on here. A little background music, changing it up. We're gonna make the channel a little bit more musical. Ask the chat to type 1 to check latency. No, I think we'll be all right. I think I already have a feel for how much latency problems are gonna be, and people are gonna have different latency. Like some people will be earlier, some people will be later. What's up, April? Thank you for the congrats. What's up, Renee? What's up, Red Apple? You're in lecture right now. This is more important. Thank you. My sound might be coming through my computer mic. You're absolutely right. You fixed the problem. Thank you so much, Film Fatales. I didn't even notice that, which is just so unfortunate. Hello again. I won't rant too much, but I will make an extreme big case for you to read the School for Good and Evil series. Plus, yes, I have recommended something before. I'm glad you remember. Yes, I remember that, and I also remember your enthusiasm for the School of Good and Evil. The School for Good and Evil, which I saw that they made an unpopular Netflix movie about. Hexology. 6 works. My goodness. That's a lot of works. All right. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. So it's like a YA fiction thing. Okay. Slay, we love a quality mic. Boring tech question, but what mic is that? I mean, it's a pretty normal question. This is a Blue Yeti microphone. It is pretty standard for like cheap like YouTube stuff. People talk about the Blue Yetis all the time. Like they're very popularly used. They're not terribly expensive. And they seem to have a pretty good quality for me. I'm not really looking to change my microphone anytime super soon, though I understand that eventually I would love to get like a nice setup. Probably I would want to get a PC first, so this would be something that happened way down the line. but I would want to get a PC first, then get like a mic with a transmorpher or whatever they call those things. I'm so used to USB stuff, like one of those. Oh, sorry, I'm checking my teeth. One of those things that they put the microphones through, the audio feeds through. Got you, Kayla. Wasn't paying attention to the number of subscribers when I subscribed a few days ago, but I'm gonna choose to believe I'm the one that pushed it over to 70K. I take all the credit. Thimbly Joe, you are the one who did it. We are all thankful for you. What's up, Near? Good morning. Good morning. So, hello. Today I'm going to do a quick Q&A. Hoping for this to go about an hour, maybe a little bit over. And I'm going to just respond to the community post questions that you guys posed. See if I can do like even the quieter one. Let's see. Yeah, like that. A transformer, something. I think it's like called a transformer. I forgot what it's called. I'm gonna be reading you guys' questions that you made on the community post, as well as responding to random stuff in the chat if you have some questions on the spot. For those of you who aren't able to be here live, hello. You're watching this now later on in the day because I left it on. So it's not going to be a thing where you need to watch it live or else you miss it. But, you know, it's cool for you to be here because then there's more viewers, and more viewers makes my ego larger, which is great. But also it allows you to ask questions in the chat. I have a Ko-Fi link in the description that you can send donations to if you feel like helping me get, I don't know, like a cheeseburger today or something. And yeah, before I get into the questions, I want to do a pretty brief sort of explanation of what I do on the channel. Again, for those of you who are like new here, or for those who are just kind of curious and having watched for a while. Because I get a lot of kind of different types of questions across the board for different types of like expectations of what I do, I feel like it's only right for me to sort of talk about like what I think I'm doing here. In my opinion, what I'm doing here is just kind of like a long form journalism thing, a long form video essay journalism. Of course, it's very based in my like left wing views in a lot of ways, but it's also not supposed to be necessarily like revolutionary text or like theory. I have a lot of interest in those things, but those are not things that I fancy myself some excuse me, some grand contributor to. And so I get questions about lefty stuff all the time. There's gonna be some questions today about like the left, and I don't know how much I really even feel qualified or up to like answering those things, because I'm not some sort of thought leader or community organizer or union leader or a revolutionary. I am a dude who makes journalistic videos, and I do so through YouTube, which is a platform that I monetize by, you know, working with different companies. Some of those companies you might like more than others, and I do so, you know, trying to be discretionary of like what kind of companies I work for, or like what kind of companies I work with. But I also have to eat, right? Like I have to make money. I'm working to save up to go to grad school, to invest more into my work, to, you know, like live a nice life and eventually be able to move out one day. These kinds of things. It's my job, right? Like I feel like I didn't have to describe all that. It's a job. So that's kind of what I have to do, and other people will have different ways of doing things on this platform. This is something I talked about in my most recent video, which a lot of you guys supported. It's got well over 100k views now in less than a week, which is incredible. So thank you for supporting my new video. In that, I kind of talk about like what it is that we're doing here, like what is it that we are doing. And I think part of the takeaway from the video is, what do you think you're doing? Like what are you trying to do? There are folks on here that are trying to sort of do videos that are more like conversation based, where they bring on people from different platforms to talk about interesting things. There are people on here that are trying to do something more akin to like a short film. There are people trying to do documentary work. There are people that are just trying to sit in front of a camera and talk. I have some sort of mix of those things. I mentioned sometimes John Oliver is a person that like I wouldn't say necessarily I could take inspiration from, but as somebody that I'm like, you can kind of model my platform after. If you think about what John Oliver does, I do a kind of a similar thing. And as the videos go on, you're gonna kind of see the different ways that I'm pivoting into different types of video essays, with the hopes that I continue to make essays that not only are like lucrative for me, it's not like I'm just thinking about money, but that are gonna be successful on numerous fronts, including ones that spark like cool conversations in the comment sections, ones that have like positive impacts on people's lives, and ones that like help people learn about new things. I really have a passion for education, and journalism is something I've studied, and I think that those two practices go hand in hand, and I think YouTube kind of allows me to do those things, right? So yeah, this is kind of what I do. It's like I'm trying to do something cool, but I'm not trying to do something too cool. And I hope you guys understand that, and I hope you guys also don't set yourself to too high standards in what it is that you do. I think that that's very important. as cheesy and as kind of sad as that sounds. I mean, it's not even about the standard so much as it is about like we have to base our expectations in some level of like doing what is necessary for ourselves to do well in life, and like not have to worry about like sometimes we have to be selfish to a degree. I keep harping on that particular point. I just mean in the sense of like I'm not out here necessarily trying to have a bazillion subscribers either. I'm just trying to have a cool YouTube channel where I make cool videos and make money if they do well, right? And I think that is something that a lot of people are doing to varying degrees of success, and I've been very fortunate that mine has done so well over the past year. This time a year ago, I had like what 5,000 subscribers. I don't even know. You'd have to ask Denai. I think it was less than 5,000. It might have been less, like might have been like 3,000, 4,000. And I was just figuring things out. And now fast forward, we're at 70K, almost 71K, and we're just rolling. So yeah, I just am trying to keep blossoming, keep growing it, like watering it as a career, and hopefully like excuse me, hopefully you guys are able to benefit from it. But if you don't, then like sorry. Sorry. Thank you so much for the support. Let me respond to some comments before I read the questions. I'm slowly getting back into reading. That's awesome, MJ. Talking about The Last Airbender. Can't wait for the next animated stuff. Interesting. Thank you for the blessings for my sneezes. Eileen Chang, I'm not familiar. That's a great mustache. Thank you. It's my May stash. It's about 8 days left. How many days are in May? I think it's 31, so like 8 days left. Yeah, all right. It is pretty wild, Kayla. Okay. Deli, I think you donated something. Let me thank you very much. All right, let's get into it, and we're gonna start with one particular question, which is from Just Ice. That is the basis of the thumbnail. The thumbnail, the title, and of course, at this very moment, I've received a phone call. Why am I receiving phone calls at this very moment? Because I'm a busy person, I suppose. Naked phone calling people is wild, bro. I don't know, anyway. It's still part of, like, I do it sometimes too. It's just like, if you think about it, it's like, man, you just get a random call. You don't even know what you're doing. I think it's less wild like in the past because you weren't like working from home so much, so there isn't this constant feeling of like needing to have permission to call somebody. But nowadays people are so busy. I'll get back to that person soon. If you had to choose 3 books to recommend to us, what would they be and why? So this is sort of a conversation that I have had a lot of recommendation, like a lot of requests for it. A lot of people always come to the channel and are like, Elliot, you need to recommend shit. Recommend what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're studying, what you're learning about. And there's like a decent amount of fever for it, or fervor for it. So I've kind of done it before, and it's something that I can, from time to time, I'll always chime in and tell you guys what I'm up to. But I think that there's like this particular desire for like, name the stuff that you need us to like what your channel is like really heavily towards right now, like the books that are like if you want to be on Elliot time, these are the books you have to read. And the thing about that is that of course, obviously there's different recommendations for different times and people are changing, but I'm always happy to share, for one, Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. That is a book that I am constantly telling people. I don't have a physical copy of it right now, so let me just like get the thing on the screen. Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. It is a very, very, very cool book. Very, very important book. It is a book that actually, so background, when I was like a freshman in college, here it is. When I was, no, not that, move the book, not the, damn it, no, why? There we go. It has to be the red one, I guess. There we go. Okay. Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. That is a book that I was put onto by a professor of political science when I was a freshman, and it was so over my head at the time. Like, it is dense, it's dense reading. It is quite well worded and quite wordy, but it is this description of sort of understanding education from a liberatory perspective, education with the perspective and with the goal of liberation for the teacher and the student, the educator and the educated, who are part of the thing that Paulo Freire talks about, kind of in a symbiotic relationship, and kind of each are the other. And oftentimes within our, Pedagogy of the Oppressed is this book where you have these ideas of like the oppressed and the oppressor both being dehumanized, and likewise like the educator and the student both being dehumanized, in this process of sort of structuring the world so that one person has this power and the other person is the powerless, and under that order we operate everything. And through this book you kind of get this understanding that in order for us to truly make change in the world, and for us to truly break these systems of oppression, we have to first just not even recognize those positions. We have to be able to move away from the idea that one should have power over the other, but like more specifically, even like in less sort of visionary, we have to have an understanding that all people are dehumanized under systems of oppression that we live in, and that true education is not a process of the educator just telling, like he calls it the banking system, just banking information into a student, just telling you what you should do, what you should know, what you should read, but giving observations and understandings, of course, from their own knowledge, that you might have more knowledge of something over the other person, but then also being receptive to the knowledge that the other person can give you, the understanding that the other person can give you. This is a huge part of how Paulo Freire did his education of oppressed peoples in Brazil. It's supposed to be a process of involvement, and this is a process that we don't see when we are educated, when we're in schools. I talked about this in the Waving the Red Flag podcast. No, mother, do not text me while I'm in the middle of a live stream. Okay, I will read that later. That's a nice recommendation my mom gave me. That is something that I talked about on the Waving the Red Flag podcast, is that the education system is not built to be empowering. It's not built to be educative. It is education in a nomenclature sense, right? Nominatively, it is not education in the sense of actually being based on the education of all people, but rather in the breeding, the grooming of people into being able to fit the structure of society that dictates who has power and who doesn't. I'm kind of explaining it kind of poorly right now, but there's a lot there that's so good, and I think that honestly, if you have any interest in like changing the world or like and like understanding why things are messed up, then this is a book that you should read, because it gives you not only that understanding, but it also gives you some tools for understanding how you can move forward with empathy towards other people. That is not just some plain like institutional religion connotation of empathy, of like, oh, just feel bad for people and be nice to people, be kind and stuff like that. But like, actually, no, like, understand people and understand yourself as humans, like the process of humanization, and understand then what it takes to truly be in the path of humanizing each other. I think it's just a really great articulation of that issue. I've talked about this book a lot. I'm going to be talking about it more moving forward. My second recommendation, just because it's what I'm reading right now and it's pretty standard. I talk about Buddhism a lot. Of course, I had the Buddhism mindfulness video. I just got a physical copy of this. It's the Heart of the Buddhist Teaching by Thich Nhat Hanh. This is a very popular book, extremely popular book, and it is a fairly lengthy book that not only is hitting at what Thich Nhat Hanh does so famously and so well, which is like having this healing way of wording things to you, like of understanding how to heal yourself and how to be mindful and how to be present and how to be loving of yourself and of yourselves and of others. But it also has explanations of the different parts of Buddhism, of different parts of Buddhist doctrine, the Eightfold Path, understanding elements of mindfulness, elements of Buddhist ethics, elements of Buddhist like wisdom, right? Like understanding Buddhism as a whole, getting like a solid education on it, whilst also having these descriptions given to you by Thich Nhat Hanh that really feel so nurturing towards you and your own insecurities and your trauma. Like it's very therapeutic. He's a very therapeutic writer, and that's part of why it's so it's such a beautiful book. It transcends past like self-help into this realm of like something that gets at what spiritualism or non-spiritualism or just like religion can really be, which is a pathway towards liberation of oneself. And that's sort of a running theme for me. Liberation, right? And then if I were to go with a third book, what I would do is actually not necessarily recommend a book. I would kind of recommend a book, but more so I would recommend a book alongside a lecture series, and that being, let's pull up another image here just so it can be extra clear. That being David Harvey's series on Marxist Capital, Volume 1. So Karl Marx, guy from the 1800s, you may have heard of him. I quote from Marx a lot. I read Marx fairly often. I think that there's a ton of insights in Karl Marx that are extremely relevant and extremely important to understanding why so many things are problematic in our world, to understanding systems of oppression, particularly in capital and capitalism. But Karl Marx is very hard to read, and also Karl Marx is somebody who is not only hard to read in the sense of like it being complicated what he writes about and often very boring, but also is hard to read in the sense of his writing being of a time, right? Being kind of dated and being kind of decontextualized from what you understand as the world around you. And so it can be very hard to read Karl Marx and get a feeling of like actually being in it, right? Like actually belonging to the world that the book speaks about. It can feel a little bit antiquated, and it can often sometimes feel like Karl Marx is, like he's not a modern dude, right? Like there's some wording that feels a little bit, I guess cringy, is how you would say. about elements of society and race. You know, he was a person who didn't have the most progressive views on gender as we would understand them. But he was also, you know, a person of his time who was extremely progressive in certain senses for his time. But also he creates a science, right? What Marx does and what Marxism is a science of understanding capitalism and understanding how capital becomes this sort of driving force without being sort of extremely tangible that organizes our society, and that organizes the not only like the power from the powerless, but also all the interchanges and complicated spaces in between. And there's a lot that gets lost in Marx now because of, you know, a lot of bad interpretations of Marx that think that Marx was only talking about this very antiquated, very like dogmatic view of class, like this positivist view of like there's high class and then there's upper classes and lower classes and they must fight, and the rich people are bad and the poor people are good, which is something that we kind of have mainstreamized as Marx and as like part of culture, and like there's a lot to that, of course, but I don't think people understand quite how much Marx had to say about how complicated capital actually is and how little there is to understand about class merely from a perspective of a simplicity. Like, he does not oversimplify capital. Like he doesn't write all these books to say a very simple message, and even these ideas of like socialism being inevitable, and these ideas of like class being the ultimate thing, right? And economics being the ultimate thing is not even something that Marx is so dogmatic in saying. And all of these things are kind of outlined by David Harvey when he gives his lecture series, and he sort of breaks down. He actually has one on Capital Volume 2 as well. He has one on the Grundrisse that I'm currently looking through at points. Marx is actually somebody who speaks on something that is similar to like what I find in Buddhism, actually, which is that so many of these things that dictate our culture are kind of undefined and are very much dictated by other parts. And like, you cannot look at certain parts as just being independent of themselves, like supply and demand, or like class, and saying like these are tangible things that act a certain way all the time because they are, you know, independent of other things. Like, all these things are a totality. That's Marx's language, is a totality that sort of has this symbiotic, intricate relationship within it. And when you understand that, you understand the disruption of that sort of symbiosis is a key part of making change. But also you understand that that it's going to take way more than simply like saying things about capitalists or even revolutions, like or class warfare in the very crude sense, to have an impact and change capitalism. But that capitalism actually, in fact, has the seeds within it to self-destruct, because even though it has this symbiotic, totalistic, I guess, relationship dynamic with all these moving parts that rely on one another, a lot of those reliances and those relations that capital has are things that are toxic for capital, and there are contradictions. There are constant contradictions that when sort of keyed into can be destructive, and we see that now. A lot of what he was talking about we are seeing now. We're seeing so many things, but with what we call like late stage capitalism, it's a reference to all these like sort of broken systems that we see now, whether it's in the United States with something like healthcare and something like minimum wages, and all of these debates that we have about like, why is the system so broken? Why is this country like this? You look back at what Marx was saying, you're like, oh, like this guy kind of knew that this was happening even a long time ago. And we have evidence from like when he talks about English industrialization of these conflicts and these destructions, like these destructive relations, these contradictory destructive relations. We have evidence of it a long time ago. We have evidence of these things of companies being consistently and capitalists being consistently overly focused on short-term gain, and instead of like long-term gain, which would not disrupt the system at all, but it would in fact benefit the system, even as oppressive as it is. We have articulations of that in Marx. So when we think about like companies that are consistently just like screwing over everybody possible and heading towards these destructive relations, just so that they can have their 20% profit margin at the end of the year, we can look back at what Marx said about the industrialists and how the workers, when they organized and asked for higher wages and better conditions, were actually in a way upholding the system, like helping the system survive, right? It reminds me a lot of the quote of FDR when he passes the New Deal upon like these constant conflicts from the Great Depression and the rise of communism in the United States and communists that were demanding changes to the system. He passes these sweeping reforms and then says to the capitalists, I just saved your asses, right? I just saved you guys' asses because I'm giving these folks some of the things that they want in the meantime, and this is going to keep this thing running for a long time. And now we have neoliberalism coming in and being like, nah, fuck all that. Like, let's just derail this entire thing for the sake of like as much short-term profit as possible. But that's what happens when all the short-term profiteers are in power. So anyway, that's a long diatribe to basically say that there's so many insights in Marx that no matter who you are or where you are, that you can gain something from. And if you're in a situation where you're like, but I don't want to bother with trying to figure these things out, like how like this text is too dense for me, then David Harvey is somebody that you can look at, and his lecture series on Capital Volume 1 is something that you should definitely look into. It has been a radicalization point for so many people. It was so helpful for me, and it will be very helpful for you. So those are my 3 sort of recommendations, and I kind of went on a long tangent, so let me look at the things that I missed in the chat before I move on, because I was talking for a while. Thank you to Selena Flows. That's people to form a cult. That's a fun thought. Oh, I accidentally like rewinded on my feed. The first step to teaching a human about anything is to make them interested in learning what you have to share. I think that kind of relates to Freire. I put this book in my reading list after watching Kalushi. It's a biopic about South African freedom fighter Solomon Mlangu, and I recommend watching it. I will put it on my list. I'll put it on my list, my friend. Just cracking my neck. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just cracking my neck. You have recommendations for creativity and growing as an artist? Health. So, if you're not healthy, you're not going to get anything done. And I'll get into this a little bit more because there was a similar question on my community post. Creativity should come from health. If you're there's going to be points in which you have to push yourself past certain boundaries, and you might end up drinking a little too much, or you might end up losing some sleep some days. And that is kind of part of the natural ebb and flow of life. But like, if you're not keeping yourself healthy, you can just forget about being an artist sustainably. And sometimes that means like having to work and things like that, but it also just means like having a healthy relationship with your brain. It means like, if you're having difficulty with certain things mentally, you should research it and figure out what those things might be. Do you have some sort of condition? Do you have some sort of situation in your life socially that is affecting your brain? How can you help yourself with that, right? Like, you have to be in a process of self-understanding and self-help and mental health. Not just self-help, but just like help in general, before you can really like be able to consistently have like a comfortable creative output. Because part of having a good, consistent, comfortable creative output is accepting that perfection is just not there, and that perfection is something that happens unwittingly, and that consistent output means you're gonna put out a lot of stuff that might just not be like super great, but that you're just like comfortable with because it hits your healthy criteria. And it also means like consistently working, and it means consistently trying new things, and it means not beating up on yourself or falling into terrible patterns every time something doesn't work out perfectly the way you want it to creatively. So health is the biggest key, and so that means like getting better sleep. That means like avoiding toxic, content as much as possible. That means like being like trying to be dignified in your day-to-day life in terms of like making the right choices for yourself and for other people that make you happier, that make you healthier, that make you more comfortable with yourself. Healing your trauma. It means that, if you can't afford therapy, it means going through a therapeutic process with yourself. It means neuroplasticity. It means exercising regularly. It means drinking water instead of like soda sometimes, or not getting high as much. Getting high is cool, but like not as much, right? Like not getting drunk. Like it means making choices for your health. And especially if you're in a position where you're having to work and balance work with creativity, like, most of us, then you definitely need to make sure you're healthy when you're doing that. Not just because of your productivity, but because of your unproductivity. Creativity and productivity are contradictory, right? They don't go hand in hand. But health is key to both. And health is key to everything. If you don't have your health, then what do you have? Like you can have other things, like there's metaphysics and stuff like that, but like, you know what I mean? As a human being, like as a being, like as a physical body and shit, like it's important. You bought Pedagogy of the Oppressed, very exciting. Sounds great, Andy Acosta. I only really started to understand Marx when I read Ambedkar talking about communism. I haven't seen Ambedkar talking about communism. I did read Ambedkar's Buddha and Marx, Buddha or Marx. And I've read some of his, like some small stuff here and there from Ambedkar. He's definitely somebody that I want to study a bit more. But yeah, when we talk about communism and socialism, it feels like there's some very intuitive ideas that like people always kind of want to shoo away because it's like, you're making too much sense, right? But at the same time, then it's always somebody that comes in and is like, but communists, they did that thing in 1824. Not in 1824. You know what I mean? In 1968 in this country. And it's like, what does this have to do with the theory that I just talked to you about? Then again, I guess that's part of it, right? Understanding material realities and how they coalesce with the theories behind them. What's up, Max? Oh yeah, I watched it on VHS. The professor that gave this recommendation that in the 20s read the Communist Manifesto and in the 30s read Das Kapital. That's pretty fun. That's a pretty fun way of looking at it. Communist Manifesto is definitely much more like idealism, just revolutionary sentiment, outlining the problems with things, and there's different interpretations of Marxism. There's Marxism that's very scholarly and very like studious, that tries to get at like the heart of what things are. And understand them as deeply as possible. And then there's Marxism that's like doctrine for revolution, and both of them have like can have a nice relationship with each other, but they're not the same thing. There's different ways to skin a cat like a catfish is where I hear that comes from. I don't know if that makes it any better. There's different ways to do a thing, I think it's great whenever you can just read and study, in general. Mental health, kind of related to your health point. How do you manage to regularly make long video essays regularly without burning out? I make video essays too, and one video puts me out of commission for a month. Well, you kind of have to know. It's about balancing what's out here with what's going on in the video essay. Sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, I don't know how I just did that. I don't know how I ended up doing all this stuff for this video essay. Really, I get into these hyperfixations for hours at a time and then knock out scripts. Like I just knocked out most of a script last night through just getting hyperfixated for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then I get really tired afterwards. And so then you have to do aftercare, right? Like you have to, if you exert a lot of energy, then you have to know that that's going to come with a cost of recovery. Whatever you expend, you have to recover. And so if you're expending a lot of energy mentally, physically, all of that stuff is going to require you to pay in some extra hours of sleep, some extra hours of stretching and massaging yourself and drinking water and going for walks, and smell and deep breaths and all that stuff. You got to balance it. So if you're finding that you're burning out too much, then for one, you got to notice, you got to take account of like all the stuff that you're expending energy on and what kind of toll it's taking on you. And you got to think to yourself, okay, first of all, how much of this do I really need to do? Is there some of this that I can just like stop doing? Is there some of these stresses and burdens that I need to stop carrying? Are there some of these activities and tasks that I keep trying to do, but I'm not actually going to get done right now? Or I need to like lower my expectations towards. And then you also need to say, well, okay, with all the stuff that I want to keep, what am I going to do on the other side? What am I going to do to recover? And oftentimes, sometimes like your interests can kind of balance each other out. So I have a lot of interest in like, you know, I love Muay Thai. I try to do Muay Thai now, and it's a great way to balance out when I'm off, like sitting on a desk and talking all the time and writing all the time and staring at books. It's great to balance that with being able to go to the gym and kick shit. So have interests that sort of balance each other out. That can be very helpful as well. But also just like unproductivity has to balance the productivity. If you're producing a lot, you have to spend a lot of time doing like not producing. If you're only producing all the time, that's how you're gonna burn out all the time. So you got to carve out some space in your life for unproductivity. And if that, you know, dependent on what you want to do with your video essays, like that may just have to be your video essays. You may have to look at them from a realm of not even wanting to be productive with them, but just wanting to do them for fun. You have to know how to allocate those things, you know. Is YouTube now your full-time job? Not quite, but we're getting there. Bedgard's annihilation of caste is a very important piece of work. IMO, yeah, his work on caste is like extremely important. And I want to make sure I do some like real close study of it at some point this year. Not you going live on my first day of my new job. Congrats to 70K though. Well, congrats on you getting a new job. It's Jaden. We love the unregulated ADHD hyperfocus, my greatest superpower. Well, I try to like have it on command. First, I take medication, so sometimes when I take medication, that helps a lot too. Let me mention that. It helps a lot with focus and energy and positivity, positive vibes. It also has heavy crashes, right? Like you can get some bad crashes off of Adderall. So you have to kind of know how to treat yourself when you're going through that. But then you can also kind of learn how to hyperfocus a little bit. Like you can harness it a little bit by noticing what happens when you hyperfocus, like when it happens and why, and then just like putting those conditions forth when you want to hyperfocus on something. And it usually takes like a little push. There's always some degree every day when you have ADHD, especially, that you have to just push past this point. Like there's this border that you have to just knock over in order to like be happy. And it's kind of sucks because you kind of don't feel like it should be there. You should feel that you want to be able to just like live a normal life where it doesn't feel like you have to like slay a dragon in order to like be happy and get stuff done. But like with ADHD, you kind of have to do that. So when it comes to hyperfocus and stuff like that, like, or just getting a task done, you have to just slay the dragon, eat the frog, whatever the fuck they call it. There is a degree to which you're always going to have to just like push past a very difficult wall to push past. And once you get past it, then it becomes really like natural for a while, until the next wall comes up. So you have to be mindful of that. And sometimes you have to know like, hey, today no more walls, like no more dragons. I'm good. What's up, Jesse? Que lo que? What's up, the Nye in the chat? Have you read any bell hooks? Yeah, I've read some bell hooks. We worked on some stuff on this channel with some bell hooks in it. Yeah, going on walks, simply moving helps productivity. Yeah, and it also helps unproductivity, you know. It's good to be unproductive too. Can't really stay and watch, but regarding books, a vid on spy self-help books could be fun. I don't know what that... The like switch. The like switch. Interesting. Interesting. An FBI special agent writing self-help advice? Interesting. How do you combat burning out on a daily basis despite not doing much to feel this sense of fatigue? Sometimes, like, it's just lethargy. Like, you gotta know the difference between fatigue and lethargy sometimes. And I like saying lethargy instead of laziness, because laziness has this very mean connotation, and lethargy doesn't have that yet. Lethargy sounds kind of cool. And sometimes you're just fucking lethargic. Like, you know, when you feel like you're really tired but you didn't do anything, that's you being lethargic. That's like this extremely, like, your brain is just like slodged because it hasn't been like it hasn't been taken out for a walk. And so, like, if you don't take your dog out for a walk frequently, the dog can become restless and then can become really mad, like really, it can really struggle mentally, and like it can like eventually become very depressed, you know, because it's trying to accustom itself to this routine that you've given it, which is to say, not a routine. Like, it's not getting outside, it's not getting the opportunity to healthily express itself and to healthily go and have its like walk. So then it just ends up like as an adaptation, just kind of burrowing itself into a ball and kind of sleeping all the time and like not feeling good about itself. And that's oftentimes what we're experiencing, because it's so hard to go through these walls, like just to do anything, just to go to the store, right, just to carry out like a regular assignment, and because those things seem to pile up more and more, we get very stressed, and certain days it's just like we just can't go. And it's cool to have those days sometimes, but when you go like 3-4 days in a row where you just can't go, like you just can't get up, at a certain point you got to be like, dude, get up. Which is like very bootstrappy advice, I understand, but like I don't really know how else to sort of describe it, because that's the way I look at it for myself, where it's like, I know that it feels like I have no capacity to do this thing, but it's just because my dog has not gone out for a walk in 3 or 4 days. So now it's just starting to get sloppy. Like, my brain is just like really tired, because of course it's tired. If you don't give it a way to exercise and play, and you don't push it around a little bit, it's just going to get really fucking sloppy and slow and lethargic. So you have to be consistently sort of like getting into a pattern of with yourself of like knowing when to go and when to stop. Know when to, like have I gone like in a while? Like have I pushed in a while? No, I need to push. Have I been pushing too much? Yes, I need to rest, you know? And that's I know that's very sort of abstract and simplistic, but it's kind of difficult to give any other kind of advice because it's pretty general, right? But that's just how I see it. It's like last night I had done Muay Thai, I had read a ton, and then I knocked out that script late at night, and I felt like absolute doo-doo. Like I felt like doo-doo last night. And so what I did was I put my phone away. I did not put fucking social media in front of myself, and I got the mat out and I stretched on the mat a bit, and I like did some deep, you gotta like the way that we ignore the importance of like making noise, like you have to groan when you stretch sometimes. You gotta like it's so important to like get that guttural noise out and stretch and I just did that for a while, and I still felt kind of like shit, but I was a little bit better. Then I drank a little bit of water, and I set like a little bit of put like a little humidifier on in my room, and I was like, I'm going to sleep a good amount, and tomorrow I'm going to have a slow, restful day, because I did a lot today. I pushed myself, and now I need to rest. In art, they say like inhale and exhale. Like there's an inhaling process you have to go through, where you're just intaking stuff, reading, listening to music, having experiences, and then there's an exhale. And oftentimes we get stuck doing too much inhaling or too much exhaling. But you have to inhale and you have to exhale. The breath teaches you all you need to know about life, right? If you inhale, the exhale has to come out. Which, by the way, breathing, like keeping track of your breathing helps you through anything. God, there's some shit that I thought I would never be able to do, but because I kept track of my breathing the whole time, I just got through it and I killed it. Like, and those are the kinds of things like life is cyclical. It goes back and forth. So know which side of the wave you're on. Are you on the front of the wave, or are you on the back of the wave? Are you on the front of the swing? Are you on the top or on the bottom? Like, whoa, okay, that's getting into territory that we don't need to. Are you going forward or are you going backward? You gotta have both. So just know which one you were at and then go the other way. That's how life works. Cuídate mucho. Igualmente, Jesse. Our video about toxic femininity, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, getting active is very important. I guess my question got swept under the rug. I just needed some insight on how to combat constant fatigue despite inaction. Yeah, if you have constant fatigue, it's because of your inaction. Like if you're only inhaling and you're not exhaling, so yeah, you're gonna pass out. You have to exhale, and it's gonna feel like shit. It's gonna feel absolutely horrible. It's gonna feel absolutely horrible. But like, if you're not willing to feel absolutely horrible at points to get through some stuff, then what's the point? Like, okay, you know, like there's some things that are worth feeling absolutely horrible for. That's how I see it. And I think health is certainly one of those things. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we think that life is supposed to never feel absolutely horrible because of capitalism. Capitalism teaches us that. I don't know why. That's just a quick take. You are always come out with how do you maintain such a consistent qualitative output? I'm assuming it had something to do with your background in journalism, but I just thought I would ask. Caleb, this is a very nice question, and it's kind of correlated with what I'm talking about right now. But yeah, just as insight as to what I do and how I get out videos consistently. The deadlines help because they force me to get on a consistent routine. Like, routines are so important. It sucks because I fucking hate them, but like, it's so important to at least have the back and the forth. And so if I have a date that I know that I have to get stuff out by, then I know that in between those dates I have some time to go back, and then I have to go forward again and put it down, and I gotta go back and rest, and then I go back and back. That's what I do. And it makes me, there's times, again, like if I look at it in the totality and I look at all these videos I put out, I feel absolutely exhausted. I'm like, how the hell did I get all these videos out? But it's like not like that, right? Like, you can do amazing things in an hour. You can do absolutely nothing in a week. So it's more so like if you think about how heavy everything is, it's all gonna feel extremely heavy. But if you just if you just focus on your breath and you just focus on going back and forth, then all these other things happen, and everybody's like, oh my god, like, how did you get in such great shape? How did you get all those videos done? How did you get all those cool clothes? And you're just like, I don't know, I was just doing it. Like, I was just in it. So I try to just be in it. People call it a flow state. People talk about the flow all the time. I think that's very important. Like, that's a good articulation of it. Just try to be in it. You just gotta be in it. That's the only way. And of course, I have some education, some training in this. I take it seriously in terms of trying to get my research correct, and trying to get a good product out, so to speak. And I'm constantly trying to improve, but I also know that past a certain point, it's time to exhale. And then at a certain point, okay, I finished exhaling, and it's time to go. That's like that's the endearing image and noise of this fucking live stream. When you think of me, think of that's I want that to be your. That's again going in a direction I do not want to go in. Ghost Star, what is your biggest challenge and concern when trying to make a video essay? And how do you work to improve and overcome that? Also, what do you think is your biggest strength in making video essays? One of the biggest challenges that I definitely experience all the time, let me move this, is that of having too much ambition with my video essays. What I want to talk about, sometimes I want to talk about a theme. I want to talk about a general topic, and that makes it extremely difficult. If you want to talk about something as general as this topic of infantilization, right? I'm making it a series because it's I need to talk about this by talking about specific things in specific videos. There's no way I could just talk about infantilization for 20 minutes and feel good about it. Especially I couldn't get great research on it, because all you're going to do is just find general stuff about it from general sources that are not particularly insightful or deep or critical. Very Well Mind is a great website, but I'm not here to give you YouTube videos that are just Very Well Mind summaries and Wikipedia summaries. I want to be able to find cool studies and cool pieces of research, and cool books, and I want to be able to find cool theories and find something that invokes some deep thought in me. And so in order to do that, you have to get specific, right? Like I talked about in the video. And that's one of the biggest struggles for me, is that when I try to get specific on certain things, I get very nervous. I get very tentative about it. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I'm finding the correct info on it. So it's a big challenge to avoid overgeneralization, overgenerality with my topics, and to try to make sure things are specific and on a certain direction. The McMindfulness video came out real easy because I knew what to look for. I knew I was going to look at the Ronald Purser book as well as other texts about Buddhism and anti-capitalism. I knew that it was a specific enough topic, and I knew that once that's established, there's so many directions you can go in and make a good video with it. There's like 20 different ways I could make that video again and make it like a new cool video on the same topic but like a little different. So once you have the specifics and once you have a couple of resources down that you're ready to rock with, you're in the clear. But getting to that point, it's very difficult. So essentially it's about getting specific. That's a very difficult challenge. Concern is also like making sure it has the right title, the right thumbnail, that it's going to get views, that I'm not going to say anything that's accidentally like very incorrect or very offensive, that I am not going to make it look like shit. These kinds of things are concerns as well. What's my biggest strength in making video essays? I think that I have a decent amount of confidence that allows me to take on challenges rather than assume myself to not be smart enough to do certain things and just settle for less, essentially. I appreciate the poop comment, but I'm just gonna hide you, my guy. There's something really like important about like having the confidence to go like, let's get another video out. And some days I really struggle with my confidence, and those are the worst days. But when I'm confident, I feel like I could just fucking do anything. And when I'm in that zone, like you can't tell me shit. So that's an important part, like from a metaphysical almost point of view. But in terms of like more actual sort of things that I think is a strength of mine, like that I think maybe strengths of mine, I definitely think like I think that my ability to sort of have a level of compassion and not try to be like doing polemics all the time. Like I'm not trying to come out here and just like diss people. And I think that that's a strength, because I think that that's not only like that not only attracts negative energy and gets you into like the drama space, but like it also just is counterproductive for like making good stuff oftentimes. Like there's some people that can shit on things beautifully. Bomber guy shit on Sherlock the series beautifully. I'm not like that. Like I think it's for me, it's like I have to have a degree of, I mean, even when you shit on things, like even when he shits on things, he has this ability to sort of humanize people. And I think that that's a focus of mine that I find important, that I think I try to draw on from Freire and stuff, is like, can I like humanize everybody involved here, including myself, including the subject, including the audience. And I think I do a decent job of that. I think I do a decent job of like observing the humanity of the situation and trying to honor it, even when I'm being critical, even when I'm being harsh, even when I'm being praiseworthy, like not praiseworthy, but I'm being praiseful. So that's a thing. What's my education background? So I've gotten this question sort of before. I was a journalism and new media major. I graduated with a bachelor's in that. I want to go back to school. I want to do grad school at some point. And so I wouldn't do anything else necessarily. I'm happy with the path I've got, but I want to continue it and eventually, be able to go to grad school and study even more, because there's so much shit that I don't know. And I like, there's so much shit that it's like a borderline unacceptable that I don't know. And while I make these essays, excuse me. So like, I just want to keep learning. Gabriel, how are you so well worded and well spoken? I'm a non-native English speaker, and maybe if you have resources or recommendations to like expand my vocabulary or become better at explaining my points. So that's a very kind thing to say. Like I kind of almost dread like how like complimentary this stream has become, like how awesome this stream is about, how awesome I am. I'm so confident and smart and nice. I have problems, trust me. But as far as like being well spoken and public speaking in general, I mean, first and foremost, the dullest thing is the most important thing. you have to do it a lot. The only way that I've been able to do stuff like this is by doing it a ton to varying degrees of success. The way it usually works is like when you're really young, you start doing something and you have a ton of like energy and confidence for it, even though you're really bad at it. So you don't notice how bad you are or feel insecure about it. So you just keep doing it. And then the more that you do it, you get better at it. And then eventually you get to a point where you feel like I'm naturally really good at singing. You're not naturally really good at singing. You started singing when you were 2. You had no idea that you sucked. You had no idea you sucked at singing when you were 2. But you just started and you were doing it all the time. And now eventually, when you're 12 years old and you're leading in the choir, people are like, man, you're just so talented at singing. It's kind of like, well, it's because I've been singing for 10 years all the time. So the only way to get good at something is to do it a lot. If you're not able to do something, I mean, some people have different paths. Some people are faster to do certain things than others. It's because they're good at certain things that relate to the new thing that they're learning. If you're going to get good at public speaking, you have to public speak a lot. I've spoken about before on this platform and on other platforms how I've been doing YouTube for like 14 years. Like, I've had all these YouTube channels that have since been buried into the annals of the internet, never to be seen again, where I did all these embarrassing things and I had all these terrible public speaking moments, and I fucked up a lot, but I had some good moments. And I kept doing it because I just was like, I'm going to keep doing it because I want to be good at this. And eventually I got here. So with that out of the way, some advice in terms of things that you can do to get better at expanding your vocabulary and becoming better at explaining your points. For one, obviously reading, looking at the dictionary, but also just reading texts that are a little bit more difficult than you would normally read. And listening to conversations that are like, I spend so much time listening to lectures and podcasts and audiobooks about stuff that's like, I understand 70% of this. It's in English and I understand 70% of this. But I just put it on because there's something interesting about being able to get a piece of something that you don't know. So being in that place where you're constantly challenging yourself with challenging texts and challenging conversations is very helpful. Another thing you can do to be better at explaining your points is to aim for efficiency. Aim to learn how to trying to write things out in as simple of a way as possible, and trying to spend as little time, like avoid talking as much as I do. Try to talk in smaller amounts, to say things as simply as possible, which includes pausing. One of the problems that I have is that I and I like a lot, and I just but then there's this and there's that. If I were to just breathe a bit more and pause and go, what is it I'm trying to say? This is what I'm trying to say. It comes out clearer, you understand it better, and I don't waste as much of your time. So feel comfortable enough to pause more and make sure you get it out, even if it's not perfect. You get it out, that thought, as cleanly and as thoughtfully as you can. Use your space, use your time and your space to articulate yourself. It's okay if you pause for 10 seconds. It's okay if you say, give me a second, and you go like this. It's okay if you say, I'm not sure how to explain what I mean. It's okay to use those things. You don't have to say everything perfectly all together. In fact, that's like the worst way to try to talk. So yeah, those are some of my recommendations. Am I still doing book recommends? That was earlier on in the YouTube video, in this live stream. See you, Green Mailman. No, I will not spill an embarrassing early YouTube channel. Margot Sorn, what does a bad day look like for you? How do you cope and make sure a bad day doesn't turn into a bad week or month? Wow, that's a great question. I just recently had like a 5-day bad day stretch. It was sparked by me failing epically at Football Manager, but also other things. Like YouTube can be very difficult sometimes. Reading people comment about you all the time can be very difficult. having all that attention, having all that pressure to keep producing can be very difficult. Having, you know, familial stuff, like family stuff that's like, you know, sometimes goes well, sometimes doesn't. That can be very difficult. Being tired, like crashing from caffeine, crashing from other things, like all these things can come together. And sometimes you're just in a shit mood, you're having a shit day. And the first step to dealing with one is to just kind of acknowledge it. It took me a few days to even just have that conversation with myself. This is how it ends up being a bad month for me. I'd never sit down and go, Elliot, you're doing shit right now. Like, you're having a shit day. I keep sitting there going, well, if I just switch onto this YouTube video, and if I just turn on this app, and if I just watch this TV show, then it'll get better. If I just eat this food, you know, and that never works. It just makes you more and more depressed. So you have to first have that moment of reckoning to say, dude, I feel like shit. And then you have to have an understanding of certain things that like help you not feel like shit, which have to do with your health, have to do with like getting back in the right way, right? Like getting back into your good space, which means not just like doing the generic healthy stuff of like going for walks and drinking water and exercising, but also being like invested in like getting back to like doing the right things, right? Like one of the things we do when we're in a shitty mood, we go on Twitter and we dunk on somebody. We talk shit about people on social media. It's right there. Who's gonna check us? That's like wrong. Like that's not a good thing to do, low key. And we all do it. So it's not a judgment that I'm coming from with that, but it's wrong. It's just, there's nothing good about it. There's nothing good about going on Twitter and like saying really mean things about people. And sometimes you have to dignify a little bit and say to yourself, I'm not gonna do this. It's wrong. And when you do that, that helps too. When you take an active interest in like trying to get like your ethics and your morals together, which are gonna differ from other people, and that's fine. But when you take an interest in being like, let me get my morals and my ethics together a little bit, that's also an important part. You know, it's not just about a selfish kind of self-care. It's about an ethical and a moral thing. It's about like getting in the right way, not just getting in the like best way for me. Because without being, you know, compassionate and without being emotionally intelligent, without being ethical, without being moral, all the other stuff can just fuck off. Like all the other stuff doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter how good you are to yourself if you're being shitty to other people, including, you know, yourself. Like it doesn't matter how well you eat or how much you exercise or how deeply you breathe if you're doing things that are bad. So part of it is having the tough love conversation of saying like, hey dude, like you're feeling like crap and you're taking it out on other people. You're treating other people in your life in a way that's not good. Don't do that. And when you simultaneously do that while also being like, let's go out for a walk, let's do something nice for ourselves, it's like you're treating yourself well and also holding yourself accountable, and that's important. So that's the way that I cut off like I got back from having a few bad days in a row to getting to like a better day today. I'm feeling good now. Was just finally like stop, like just like stop fucking with yourself. Stop trying to distract yourself away from your bad feelings. You literally probably just need to like sleep more, like you need to like stretch, you need to exercise, you need to, you know, there's a million different things you can do. Frankly, there's not just one way to get back into a good mood, but you can't do it by just avoiding it. And this is the thing I have so little tolerance for. It's like I hate avoidance because I do it all the time. I'm so naturally programmed to be an avoidance person. But it's so bad. It's so bad. You cannot do anything by avoiding everything. So yeah. What's up, dog? How do you deal with doomerism with half the population being so regressive? Also, what's one of your favorite Dominican dishes? I feel doomerism all the time. I mean, it's normal. It's normal to sometimes feel like everything is going to shit, especially because it's not as if we have the best political situations going on right now. One thing that I always remember, though, which sometimes this is a good thing to remember, sometimes this is not the best thing to remember. So take this with a grain of salt. But for me, I like to go back to the fact that, like, there's a reading that, you know, history, like, goes upward, like things get better, and in some ways it does, right? We don't have as much slavery now as we did like 200 years ago, so that's good. Certain things get better, but at every point in history there was substantial oppression. Like, just oppression has been a thing as long as society has been a thing. It doesn't matter what point in history you're looking at, there was substantial oppression, substantial violence, substantial dehumanization. And so sometimes we look at the world around us and we're like, man, what's going on? The world is so fucked up politically nowadays. And it's like, nowadays, like, what we're seeing is the cycle. Now, there's a particular flavor of it that's especially impending, in the fact that we have climate change. We have significant climate change that's going to change human habitation on this planet, and we have no idea how it's going to affect us. Well, we do know how we have an idea. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. But we have no idea what we're going to do and how it's going to happen. Like how we're going to manage. If we do manage, we may, be extinct in like 200 years. And this is an extremely pressing existential and human issue that, like, causes us to feel extreme amounts of doom and extreme amounts of a feeling of needing to escape. So that part, I wish I had a great answer for that. What I will say is, for one, you're in this moment. There's a reason you're not in that moment. There's a reason that you're not in 2025 yet. There's a reason you're not in 2055. There's a reason you're not in 3100. You're here. Do your job here. Like, do your thing right now. It's important to remain present in that way. But it's also important to remember that is not something that we just made up in 1992. Like, we didn't just like start bombing the earth 40 years ago and now we're reaping the consequences. This is not something that has, like, this is the results of thousands of years of oppression, and this is the next stage of it. And whatever happens, I'm fascinated to see. Hopefully I live to see for a long time how things change, and I get to live, through a lot of stuff. I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen, but there is nothing special about this moment other than impending climate doom that should cause one to feel like this moment is especially worse than any other. Like, politically, like, I just feel that way. Like, I just think, like, there has been so much fuck shit, and fuck shit is constantly in this process of going up and down. And maybe the tide of human history is going in the right direction, maybe it's going in the worst direction. But there's only, like, we don't control any of it as individuals. The most we can do is continue to be like at the end of the day, the answer to that, it would be the answer to how you should live life if everything was good, which is to say, you should be nice to people, you should be ethical, you should be politically engaged, you should be anti-oppression, you should be studying, you should be healthy, right? Like, whether or not shit is going well, or whether or not you're gonna die tomorrow, there's no reason to not be on top of those things. So that's what I try to keep my mind on, and I try to remember also, like, I'm not special, right? Like, this is not like there was a dude in 1778 that was like me somewhere in, like, I don't know, Hong Kong or something. So basically what I'm saying is like, I don't have some great message of hope, but likewise, I don't have some astounding message of doom. You just kind of have to keep living. You just kind of have to do it. And there's no reason for like shitty situations. Like the best thing to do in shitty situations is still just to like be at your best and to take care of yourself and to take care of other people. So am I gonna create a Discord server for this channel? I'm not interested in doing so now, but if ever that comes up, I'll let y'all know. Octavia Butler's Parable series is elites. That's interesting. Doomerism is normal, but you can't be consumed by it. Yeah, it's you can get a little doom sometimes. My mental health is better, and I have made more friends after being on Twitter less. It's crazy how that happens. It is crazy how that happens. I could basically just make this entire stream just be like, get off Twitter. One day I'm just gonna do a stream, and I'm gonna make you guys think I'm doing a Q&A, and I'm gonna answer everything by telling you to just get off social media. It literally makes a big difference. It's like the same thing as like going for a walk, waking up early and going for walks. Oh my god, it's having a positive effect on me mentally. This is great. I kind of just feel like I'm here now. Might as well cause some chaos. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I feel like I'm being preached to right now. My soul's being closed. You're so funny, Kayla. Yeah, Andrewism has some great stuff on radical hope and empathy. Thank you to Eliza. Congrats. Thank you. Are there any tips you personally use for ADHD and planning stuff? I kind of got into that already. How to get back into the YouTube grind after a long break, especially with commentary content. Yeah, kind of what I've talked about already too. Like just one at a time. You know, you've done a lot of inhaling because you're on a break. Now it's time to exhale. Get some shit out. Get some shit out of you. And once you get enough out, you return. If you're gonna comment, like, and another thing with burnout, right? Like, while we're doing the inhale exhale thing, so sometimes some people put out a video every couple months. They inhale like, and then they exhale, and they get a whole shit ton of stuff out. Some people get a video out every week, and they're just. Do you notice the difference? One is faster and getting more breaths out, but it's also taking less breath in. So again, it's all about the cycle. It's all about the proportion of like inhale to exhale. That proportion of productivity versus unproductivity. Inhaling is unproductive. Exhaling is productive. I mean, in that sense, like it's just a particular setup I'm giving you. Okay, I'm not saying you should. Anyway, you need to be unproductive and productive equally. You need to pair them. You need to balance them. If you are producing more than you are unproducing, then you will feel the effects of that. You will feel the burnout. So when you're coming back to anything after a long break, just know that like you've inhaled a certain amount. You've been unproductive on this certain journey a certain amount. Now you have a certain amount stored up. So a lot of times the struggle with that is like, how do I get started? And the best way to get started is to not think about it too much. Just to pick something that seems fun and just do it, and not allow those thoughts of like, it's not gonna work, it's gonna be terrible, like to dominate you. Like, or whatever thoughts that come in that make you want to avoid it. Avoidance is not the thing. Just go with it. Maybe it'll suck. It's fine. You'll be fine. Core memories. Oh, I wonder what core memories. Is there a reason you just have a Ko-Fi, not a Patreon or membership thing? Also found you through your intrusive thoughts video. Made me feel so seen. I have thought about doing a Patreon. Maybe when I get 100k subscribers. If I get 100k subscribers, I'll do a Patreon. But I don't know. Maybe even earlier. I don't know. I just I have to take some things into account, and then one day I'll pop up and I'll have a Patreon. That's basically my answer to that. My flatmates are gonna hear me panting around the house with this inhale exhale analogy. Somebody brought it up to me like in this previous video, this previous live stream where I was talking about like what do we do now. Somebody gave the inhale exhale metaphor in the comments. I don't remember who it was, but it was sick, and I was like, I love that. I'm gonna use that. So thanks to them. How was your transition into adulthood going? I don't know if you mean was or is, but like I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I'm gonna kind of be withholding here because the next couple videos I'm gonna be talking about something similar to that. So stay tuned. What are your favorite things to do in hobbies? I love to write. I love to make music, write lyrics. I love to. I like doing Muay Thai now. I like going, listening to podcasts. I've been listening to the Behind the Bastards podcast. That's pretty fun. I love to eat. I'm a big foodie. I love to go to restaurants and review them with my girlfriend. What are your top 5 pieces of media that you think every leftist should consume? So I don't know. I mean, like, it would be great if every leftist could consume the same pieces of media, at least so we could be on the same page with things, because leftism is such a gigantic spectrum, it's barely even a thing. Quick hits, I'll go with like what I said before. So David Harvey's lectures on Capital Volume 1 alongside the book. I'll count that as one. Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, I'll count that as one. I'm reading Black Marxism by Cedric Robinson right now. I'll count that as another one. Another quick hit, I will go with... I'm supposed to name 5? Jeez. Let's go with Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth. And let's go with... I'm almost there. Fuck it, I'll just go with Buddhism Under Capitalism, the new compilation book that I talked about in my McMindfulness video, because that has a lot of really cool insights on religion and how it intersects with politics, and like it dives into some stuff that will be kind of like disruptive to people's Orientalism, so that's good. Do you have a favorite film? My favorite film? I don't know. I really like Fight Club. I really like Mulan. I don't know. Into the Spider-Verse. That's a favorite of mine for sure. That might be my favorite film. Do I read mainly nonfiction? Yeah, I do. I gotta get back into fiction. Eating food with comrades is the thing I like most about being an adult. It's pretty real. Babel or the Necessity of Violence novel by R.F. Kuang is a must-read. I'm gonna write that down. Babel. Okay. That looks cool. So I'm gonna get into that. Okay, Kayla, I got you. I might have to get into that series. I like the sense of the community here. I've thought of your channel before while doing laundry or some mundane task, and how nice this space is. Such a quiet, cozy corner on the internet. That's a lovely thing to say, Shibby. Thank you. Onrail, hey, congrats on 70K. Fight Club is a favorite movie. Is a red flag though. LMAO. It's been a while, Onrail. Like it's been several years. I really liked that movie when I was in high school, but I liked it because I liked how it was sort of like unpacking masculinity as this fake thing that people get obsessed with to sort of unpack their traumas and shit like that, and like how there are certain things with masculinity that feel healing, but at the same time there's so much of it that's just nonsense and everything sucks. That was like this thing I was into in high school for whatever reason. But I would say my favorite movie would probably be Into the Spider-Verse now. But thank you Unreal. I have more comments. I have more. Thank you to Daughter Nature. What's one of your favorite foods? One of mine is sushi. One of my favorite foods is Szechuan dry pot. Szechuan dry pot is fucking awesome. Oh, somebody asked me about my favorite Dominican food earlier. I love locrio. I really love locrio. I love I love tostones. I love, you know, I'm into the tres golpe. I'm into some tres golpe. I'm into some, you know, pernil, Dominican pernil. I love habichuela con dulce. You know, holiday favorite. Habichuelas con dulce. Pupusa are Salvadorian. Lobster or crab? Ooh, I'll go with crab. I think it's good if you, yeah, I'm with you with that film fatales. But then again, I have to rewatch it because maybe it's like not even that good if you're critical. It depends. I gotta double check that. Maybe I'll do a video about Fight Club. I'll put that down. Is there a subject that interests you a lot but aren't currently interested in making a YouTube video about? Yes, there's tons. There's tons. One that I was kind of interested in doing was a video on Abbott Elementary. I had like a video titled down like Abbott Elementary, a critique of American liberalism, talking about some of like how Abbott Elementary sneaks in these interesting messages about liberalism in it. Yeah, but then like there's a dude who made a really sick Abbott Elementary video, and I don't really feel a need to do another one. Yeah, Salvadoran. Yeah. It's good. The pupusas are good. Elliot Food Connoisseur Taste Tour in Mexico when? Hey, I'm trying to, Jesse. I want to. You'll be seeing me. Maybe by the end of the year, you'll be seeing me. Best video on my channel, the High School Musical video. Thank you, Jaguar. Thank you, Kayla. Who's your favorite philosopher? My favorite philosopher, I don't know, probably Buddha. Probably the Buddha. Do people in your real life ever clown or judge you for having a YouTube channel, especially at the beginning when you were getting small view counts? Not in my face. People have always been very supportive of my YouTube stuff to my face. I mean, there have been points where people have made fun of me, but I forgot about all of them. Those were very long times ago, like a very long time ago. In recent memory, not at all. People have always been very supportive of me. Behind my back, I don't know, but to my face, people have been very nice. What inspires you the most? I guess the breath, apparently. Breathing apparently inspires me a ton. If you had to apply labels to yourself politically, religiously, philosophically, which would you hate to have applied to you? Why so? I would not, I mean, there are some pet peeves I have. I don't like to use the word hate necessarily, but like, let me not be pedantic. I'm kind of annoyed with like the emphasis on like grouping Eastern spirituality as like this one thing. It's not as if like Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism are the same thing. They have obviously some interrelated concepts, especially in the practices that have been in the places where those religions are practiced near each other. But it's not as if they're the same thing, right? So I kind of get like a cringe. I get like a bit of a weird feeling when people are like talking about. Sorry, let me just check something. I got a disturbing email. Oh no, I'm good. Never mind. Yeah, I kind of get this like uncomfortable feeling when people talk about like Eastern spirituality. So I would hate to be called like an Eastern spiritualist. Like, oh, he's got such great views on Eastern. Well, maybe that's different, but like oh yeah, he's a guy who knows about Eastern spirituality. It's like I know some stuff about Buddhism, and like a little bit about like Tao, like a little bit. I also don't. I mean, there's probably a ton of labels I wouldn't want to be called. Liberal. I don't consider myself like there's liberalism in what I do, and I like some liberal points, some liberal stuff, but I wouldn't want to be called like a lib necessarily. But then again, I don't know. I don't really care. Do you believe in love at first sight? No. My neighbor was worried you were an interracial couple gentrifying the neighborhood. Nothing has made me more self-conscious of just living. Oh man, I mean gentrification is a spiritual thing, isn't it? Do I like SpongeBob? Yeah, SpongeBob's cool. You're so funny. You're so funny, Kayla. Oh boy. Ong or Zuko? I don't have an opinion. I don't watch Avatar. Sorry. But I will one day. See you, Margot. There was another one that I missed. I can't see. I've been trying. Well, somebody just Thimbley Joe asked. I've been trying to get involved in leftist politics, but I don't know anyone IRL. Do you have any advice for finding local activist communities? I struggle with that too, frankly. There's some websites. I think it's like Marxists.org. I don't know. There's some websites that have like listings of meetups, but I don't know. I would I mean, there's DSA stuff, like if you're in America, or you can look at different like leftist political parties that are in your country or in your state or city, and like see if they have meetups and stuff. They usually do, like the big ones especially. So you can possibly attend those. And you can also like put out a post like on Facebook or on Reddit and be like, hey, people in this area, would you like to meet and talk about this book? You know, would you like to meet and talk about Marxist Capital, or would you like to meet and talk about anarchism or whatever? Yeah, you could do something like that. What's a food from your heritage you can't possibly live without? I don't know. I mean, frankly, like it's. Oh, wait a minute though. I mean, rice, like rice generically. I love rice. Like I don't know if I could do without rice. But like that's like a cheat code. Like that's like a cheat answer, because like what kind of rice, right? I'll just say rice to just. I mean, rice is the only thing. Like Chinese and Dominican, like rice is one of our few like intersectional points. Moving forward, what is your dream or ideal content? Don't be afraid to throw the bar high, not to put pressure, but a lighthearted question. Let's see. I mean, I don't necessarily have a dream one. I'm kind of doing my dream stuff already, you know. But I would say I would definitely like to do some more writing on music soon. But stuff that's gonna work too for this. Yeah, Dreambrush has a point with that too. Joining a union can also work. I like Mangu. I could live with that Mangu. Who you got in the NBA Finals, Heat or Nuggets, and how does this affect LeBron's legacy? Finals, I got Nuggets. Oh, it's hard, man. I'm so stoked for this finals because it's such a toss-up. I got Nuggets in 6. Generic. Because I think Nuggets, like, I think Miami maybe takes. Oh man, I think Miami might take game 1. Nuggets take game 2 at home, and then Miami takes game 3. Nuggets take game 4, and all of a sudden the series evens up. Nuggets come back home, win in Denver, and then win in Miami, and the Nuggets I think win the finals. I think that's what happens, because at first we're going to get the whole thing of like, oh my god, Miami's doing it again. They're going to fucking steamroll the Nuggets now. And then the Nuggets are going to fight back. And then some of the Miami players are going to finally get like cool off a bit shooting, because it's going to be a bit more pressure. Denver's defense is just more active. Better, like they adjust a little bit better than other teams that Miami's faced this. Well, Miami hasn't faced anybody that knows how to adjust yet. Denver at least is decent at adjusting. Mike Malone is a decent guy at adjusting. And the talent level of Jokic is just like, there's nothing that they can do for Jokic. There's nothing that they can do really if Jamal Murray gets hot. It's hard though, because there is stuff that they can do. Like Miami's just on a different level right now. But I just think that once Denver starts punching back and like surviving some of the hits that Miami deals them, then Miami's going to get a little bit tight. and some of those shots are just not going to fall like they've been. And eventually Denver's just going to take like 3 in a row to end the series. But it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a really good series. And how does it affect LeBron's legacy? It doesn't. LeBron is LeBron. If he wins another finals, like his legacy is only going to get like a little higher. But like, what else can you say? Like, he's either number 1 or number 2. And if he's number 2 to you, then there's basically nothing he can do to get to number 1. Like, how is he going to eclipse Jordan at this point if he hasn't already? So if you put one lasagna on top of another lasagna, is it just one big lasagna? Yes, unless the contents of each lasagna are just drastically different from one another. But then again, it would still kind of be like just 2 different lasagnas. Well, that's just 2 different lasagnas. Yeah, if they're very different lasagnas, like if one has like white sauce and the other has red sauce, and you put them on top of each other, that's 2 lasagnas. That's 2 lasagnas. Do you need a dookie after eating dairy? I mean, kinda. I feel like everybody does. Did it hurt when you fell from heaven? No. I landed on like this really comfortable like bed. Like that's why I'm such a sleepy person, is because I landed from heaven into a bed. What's your favorite color? Mine is red. Let's go with black. I'll go with black today. Good sancocho? Oh yeah, sancocho can be really... I've never been huge on sancocho, but it can be really good, obviously. How Catholic are Dominicans? Did you have to go through that first communion, godparents, catechism thing, and how your pandas doing? So I don't know what you mean by my pandas. Dominicans are very Christian, very Catholic, very, very God people, godly people. I did go through... I mean, I went to a Catholic school growing up, and I did... I never got my first communion. I was like, I don't feel like I'm ready for this. I'm not really up to this. And then I just never did the Catholic thing again after that. But part of it was just because I was lazy. And also part of it was like, I don't think I'm really into this. So yeah, Dominicans are really Catholic. I did get some of that in my upbringing, but I eventually kind of moved away from it. My parents have been pretty chill about that. It's fine, Caleb. One day I will read it at the very least, because it'll be funny to be able to be like, I read it. Do that thang be thangin'? Sometimes. Hey man, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How did you get into leftist politics, and what motivated you to get this kind of content? To do this kind of content? Yeah, I mean, I had always felt like a sense of like a caring about justice and injustice since I was like a kid, since I was like 10 or 11. I started watching like the Young Turks when I was like 11. I started like listening to some Immortal Technique and shit. I was like edgy. And yeah, from there, you know, like especially through my love of like hip hop, that I got from an early age, that connected me to some leftist politics, because a lot of the hip hop artists that I was into were ones that were like lefty. I didn't get into like super pro-capitalist hip hop as a kid. I was into indie shit. And that became a huge point for me. And I decided to do this kind of content because I noticed that how popular it was and how much I was enjoying it, but also how many things were missing in terms of things that I'm interested in that could be talked about in this way, and certain ways in which certain things are talked about. And especially as a journalist, I was like, hey, this is something that I can do. Like, this is literally what I do, just in a different form that I like even better. So I'm just going to do that. Why? Why not? Is this a question? Yes. Why did you start making YouTube videos? Kind of just went over that. And somebody said, nope, gosh, no. Which, yes, great question indeed. Yeah. Okay, so we ran through those last ones pretty quickly. This was a fun stream. It was well over an hour. It was about 100 minutes long. I'm going to go now. I'm going to make a salmon. And I'm going to eat it. Any questions? Please be safe. Please have a great day. Thank you for your questions. And yeah, kill your heroes. Yeah, Young Turks, huh? So I'm going to go eat some lunch, and I hope you all have a great day. That's about all I got. Thanks.